Episode 14, County Fair Chaos.
Early October rolled through Barton County like it couldn't decide between summer and fall. The air was warm enough for t-shirts, cool enough for hoodies, and it carried the faint smell of corn dust and wood smoke. Every telephone pole wore the same flyer. Barton County Fair, 4 days of food, fun, and foolishness. Frank had seen that sign all week on his coffee runs. He'd never admit it, but he looked forward to the fair every year. It wasn't about the rides, it was about noise, beer, and one more weekend that felt like the good kind of chaos. Doug was the one who insisted on driving. "This rig hauls dreams and diesel," he said proudly, slapping the side of his semi. "Everybody pile in." Diane eyed it like a crime scene. "Doug, this thing smells like feet and cheap cologne." "That's the scent of freedom," Doug said. Harry climbed up behind her, mason jar in hand. "Smells more like regret." Ricky had already claimed shotgun, shirtless, wearing aviators even though the sun hadn't made up its mind yet. "Road trip," he hollered. "Barton County Fair, baby. Somebody cue up Toby Keith." Hudson filmed from the back seat. Episode 14, Everybody. We're on our way to Barton County's annual fair. Doug's steering a cruise missile, Papa's already roasting him, and Dad's just hoping Larson doesn't puke on his boots. Frank scratched the dog's ears. Dog's got a stronger stomach than Ricky. Not true. Ricky shouted, popping a beer even though it was 10:30 a.m. "I can eat anything, deep-fried Oreos, Twinkies, butter, bring it on." Harry shook his head. "You can also regret it faster than anybody I know." The ride was a circus, Diane yelling at Doug for missing the turn, Doug arguing with the GPS, Ricky hanging out the window, waving at strangers, and Hudson narrating it all like a news anchor covering a train wreck. By the time they pulled into the gravel lot, the fairgrounds were alive. Ferris wheel lights spun against a hazy sky. Diesel smoke drifted from the tractor pole, and the smell of kettle corn hit like a memory. Diane stretched as she climbed down. Finally, a real competition. These people don't know who they're dealing with. Frank raised a brow. "Who exactly are they dealing with?" "The future queen of the cakewalk," she declared. Ricky almost spit his beer. Of all the titles. "Laugh now," Diane said. "I'm coming home with a cake, maybe 3. Hudson whispered into his mic, "Breaking news. Mimo declares war on baked goods." Frank chuckled. For once, it felt like maybe the week would end on laughter instead of arguing. The second they hit the gate, the crew split up like a prison break. Doug hauled Harry toward the livestock barn. Hog judging builds character. While Diane beelined straight for the bingo tent like she owned stock in it. Ricky, of course, sniffed out the beer garden before he even got his wristband. That left Frank, Hudson, and Larson wandering the midway, surrounded by the smell of fryer, oil, popcorn, and dust. At the first booth, Ricky was already slamming cash on the counter. "One of those giant unicorns for my buddy Hudson here." Hudson laughed. "Ricky, I'm good." "Nope," Ricky said. "I'm winning this one." The carny handed him 3 baseballs. Ricky wound up like Nolan Ryan and missed every single one. One ball even ricocheted into a cotton candy stand. Frank doubled over laughing. Future Hall of Famer. "Fluke," Ricky grumbled, peeling out another 5. On his 4th try, he finally toppled the bottles and held both hands high like he'd just won Talladega. He shoved the huge pink unicorn into Hudson's arms. "There. Friend of the year." Hudson staggered under the stuffed monster. "Pretty sure it's bigger than my bed." Diane reappeared a minute later, triumphant, holding 2 frosted cakes. "Told you," she said smugly. "Victory." "Mom, you've been gone 20 minutes, Frank said. "That's called efficiency," she snapped, lighting another cigarette. Harry ambled up from the barn with powdered sugar on his shirt. Hogs were boring. Funnel cake was better. Doug followed gnawing on a turkey leg the size of a Louisville Slugger. "Protein," he mumbled. They regrouped at the food row. Frank ordered a pork tenderloin sandwich so big the bun looked decorative. Hudson went for fried Oreos. Larson stole half a corn dog from an unsuspecting kid and trotted off like he'd won the lottery. "Dog's faster than Ricky," Frank said. "Not possible," Ricky replied, holding 2 beers. "I've been training for this fair all year." As the sun sank, the fair began to glow, neon lights reflecting off metal rides, country music spilling from bad speakers, and laughter echoing between tents. For a county with 1 stoplight, Barton sure knew how to light up a night. By dark, the fairgrounds were alive with color and noise. Diane was on her 3rd cakewalk win. Ricky had somehow joined the Demolition Derby pit crew. Doug was holding a new cowboy hat 2 sizes too small, insisting it built character. Frank and Hudson drifted toward the far side of the fair. where the dirt track stock cars sat on display near the tractor pull. Numbers painted bold, roll cages welded tight, and chrome catching every bit of light from the flood lamps. Frank slowed, his eyes fixed on them. The noise around him faded for a second. "Those," he said quietly, "that's what I always wanted to do. Saturday night racing. Just me, a beat-up car, a track full of dust. Never had the money, never had the shot, just watched other guys chase it." Hudson looked up. "You could still try, Dad. Even just the local tracks. I'd help." Frank smiled faintly, hand resting on the scuffed hood of car number 41. "Takes more than heart, bud. Takes parts, fuel, time, and a few $1,000 I don't got." Hudson shrugged. "Yeah, but you've already done harder things. You raised me." Frank chuckled softly. "Good point. You're cheaper than race tires." Harry wandered over, sipping from his mason jar. He stared at the cars a long moment before saying, "If a frog had wings, it wouldn't bump its ass. But if a man's got dreams, he best chase them before his knees give out." Then he wandered away like he hadn't just said something profound. Ricky came stumbling over, arms greasy, beer in hand. "Brother, you should have seen me in the derby pit. Told the driver to give a hell, and he did. I think I'm crew chief now." Frank laughed. "You inspire chaos, not racing." "Same thing," Ricky declared, nearly spilling his beer on the hood. They regrouped near the Ferris wheel. Diane refused to ride. Death traps with music, and Harry muttered something about paying his water bill before heading toward the bathrooms. So it ended up being Frank, Hudson, Ricky, Doug, and Larson crammed into one shaky cart. As the wheel creaked upward, Ricky yelled, "I can see my truck from here." "That's a silo," Doug corrected. Hudson was laughing too hard to hold his phone steady. Frank just leaned back, Larson asleep in his lap, the fair stretching out beneath him in lights and color. For once, he wasn't thinking about what he hadn't done, only what he had. Hudson smiled. "Pretty good night, huh?" Frank nodded. "Yeah, pretty damn good." The fair slowly wound down, the sounds fading into crickets and laughter. Diane guarded her 3 cakes like gold. Ricky tried to barter a funnel cake for one, and Doug was already wearing his too-tight cowboy hat like it was a crown. They all piled into Doug's semi again. The fair lights flickered behind them, and the cool night air rolled in through the open window. Ricky cracked open a beers and handed one to Frank. "Brother, we can't end a fair night without music." Frank grinned. "Then let's fix that." He pulled out his phone, connected to Doug's Bluetooth speaker, and Toby Keith's "I Should Have Been a Cowboy" filled the night. They didn't drive off right away. They sat on the tailgate, passing beers, laughing about the night. Doug kept time by slapping the side of the truck. Ricky sang off-key, Harry hummed quietly, and even Diane, sitting off to the side with a cigarette and her cakes, smiled and said, "He actually sounds better than the radio." Frank leaned against the truck, beer in hand, hat tilted low, the glow of the fair still flickering in his eyes. The air smelled like diesel, sugar, in October. He thought about those cars again, those dirt tracks, that dream, but it didn't hurt as much now. Maybe some things didn't have to be finished to matter. Hudson lifted his phone, not to post, not to film, just to keep. One fair, one family, one night under the neon. This was life at Frank's place.